This is the pre-cal lesson 1.1 lines in the plane. I'm going to go over exactly what we did in class. Um, uh, Hopefully, if you need this, you can watch it. You can rewind and skip to the parts that you need. I'm also going to go into a little bit further detail with some fractions to make sure your algebra skills are okay, because there are some of those on your homework, and so then there could also be some on your quizzes in your test. So we're just going to go nice and slow and make sure that this sinks in really, really well. Okay, so everybody knows that slope is y minus y over x minus x. It's y minus y on top because that's the rise or the fall. If it's positive, it's going to rise. If that value is negative, it's going to fall. And then on the bottom, you do x minus x, and that's your run. I would love for you to think of the top as either being positive or negative, and the bottom is always being positive. I always want you to think to run to the right, and the top you can either fall or you can rise. If you end up with a slope that's 1 over negative 5, then I want you to rewrite that as negative 1 over 5. If you get a slope that's a negative 2 over negative 3, I absolutely want you to know that that's a positive 2 over 3. So again, your bottom number should always be positive when you're done with your algebra. So you're always going to run to the right. This would be down 1, right 5. This would be up 2, right 3. Okay, so find the slope through the following points. So we're just going to do y minus y over x minus x, and this is where it's really easy for pre-calculus kids who are used to doing things really, really fast to go fast and make a very, very simple algebra mistake. So don't fly through this stuff and miss it because you lost a sign or didn't follow your sign rules. You should not need your calculator for this in any way, shape, or form. Let's see, y minus y over x minus x, 5 over negative 1, which would be negative 5, which means you would go down 5 and then right 1. So all whole numbers for slope are always over 1. Y minus y over x minus x. So his slope is a 2. Okay, these two are separate because they're special cases. Some of you are going to be able to pick up on this, and some of you are just going to need to work it out every single time. Either way is fine. If I do y minus y, I'm getting 0 over negative 7. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. That's not the answer. Don't you dare give me that. That's not the answer. Okay, but I'm going to skip over to part B and do this one also so we can compare them. Y minus y over x minus x. Okay, these two answers are not both 0, and they're not both undefined. One of them is 0, and one of them is undefined, and they are two very different lines. The one where 0 on the top is 0. The one with 0 on the bottom is undefined. You've learned that since Math 1. You've talked about undefined slopes and 0 slopes. That's something that I absolutely need you to know. 0 on the top is 0. 0 on the bottom is undefined. The reason why, and I explained this in class, if you have like 6 over 2, that's 3. The reason it's 3 is because 2 times 3 gives you 6. Well, guys, what can you multiply by 0 to get 3? Nothing. 0 times nothing will give you 3, and that's why this is undefined. Now come back and look at this one. Negative 7 times 0 is 0. That's why that one works. Now let's talk about what these two lines look like. If I were just to quick sketch this graph, negative 1, 2, and 6, 2. So you can see that that's a horizontal line. Okay, so I need you to understand this relationship. If the slope is 0, it will be a horizontal line. If you have a horizontal line, his slope is 0, always and forever. If I look at B, 3, 4, and 3, 1, That is a vertical line. The slope of every vertical line is undefined, and every undefined slope is a vertical line. A lot of times when we get later into the notes, I'll say write the equation of the line that goes through those 2 points. And people will tell me that it's undefined. That's not true. The line exists. There it is. So it has an equation. Now its slope is undefined, but the equation, the line itself, is not undefined, just the slope. Okay, I'm going to take just a sidebar real quick and make sure that you guys can handle fractions. So let's say I give you 2/3 and negative, I don't know, 4. And then let's go 5/2, let's make him negative, and a negative, I don't know, 3/4. Okay, and let's find the slope. Okay, so here I go. I'm going y minus y over x minus x. Now, some of you have been trained to be very calculator dependent. We are cutting that cord. I want you to be able to get a common denominator in your head. I want you to be able to same change flip when you're dividing. I need you to be able to do this stuff in your head. I know what's coming in this course, and you need to be able to do this stuff in your head. If I hear calculator clicking on your little buttons when you're doing problems like this, you're not where you need to be. Okay? You cannot fake it in here. You've got to stop, and you've got to make sure you know how to do this. Okay? So here it is. To get a common denominator, first I'm going to go plus plus. To get a common denominator, I'm going to put my 4 over 1. So the common denominator for the top with a 1 and a 4 is going to be a 4. So this first fraction is going to get a 4 over 4. The reason I can do that is because 4 over 4 is 1. And if you multiply something by 1, you're not really changing it. So when I multiply top times top and bottom times bottom, I'm going to get negative 16 over 4 plus 3 over 4. They now have a common denominator. Awesome. All right, let's deal with the bottom. Again, I'm going to go plus plus. The bottom's denominators are a 3 and a 2. The common denominator would be a 6. So I don't give them a 6. I give them what they need to turn into a 6. So if this guy's a 3, he needs to be multiplied by 2 to become a 6. So I'm giving the bottom a 2, but I also have to give the top a 2 because 2 over 2 is 1, and that's what makes it legal. Now this denominator is a 2. If I'm trying to turn him into a 6, he needs a 3. So the bottom is going to become top times top, bottom times bottom. 4 over 6. And the second one's going to be 15 over 6. Now that they have a common denominator, I can add them together. So negative 16 plus 3 is 13 over 4. Do not add your denominators together. 4 and 15 is going to be 19 over 6. Okay, to divide fractions, again, you do not grab your calculator. You same change flip, you keep flip change, however you want to call it. I'm going to call it Bojangles. So I've changed it to multiplication, and I flipped the bottom fraction. Now this is where some of you are going to do 13 times 6 and 4 times 19. I'm going to cancel. I'm going to try to reduce. I reduce on the front end to make my multiplying easier. So I know that I can take a 2 from a 4 and a 6. So that would leave me with a 2 and a 3. And it just makes my multiplying easier, and it makes it so I know that I can't reduce when I'm done. 13 times 3 is 39. 2 times 19 is 38, I think. Yeah, 38. So there is your slope. This you need to be able to do. There are some of these on your homework. I beg you not to use your calculator. Slow down, take your time, make sure you know how to do these fractions. Okay, point slope form. This is probably a new formula for you guys. It's so much easier. You're still going to end up with y equals mx plus b, but this is so much easier to get there. Okay, so it says find the equation of a line that passes through 1, -2. This is a point, so this is my x and my y. So that's this guy and this guy. And has a slope. My slope is m. So that's the 3, that's that guy. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to go y, let's see, minus a -2. So plus 2 equals m, which is 3, x minus 1. And then you just clean it. I'm going to distribute my 3, and then I'm going to subtract my 2. So now I know that the y-intercept is -5, and his slope is 3. So this is what the line looks like. Okay, find the equation of a line that passes through -6, 2 and has a slope of 1/2. Oh, -1/2. All right, here I go. Y minus y equals m times x minus a -6, so plus 6. So y minus 2 equals -1/2 x. -1/2 times 6 is a -3. Add your 2. Okay, so he has a y-intercept of -1. And then a slope of down 1, right 2. So there he is. Okay, this one's a great problem. It says in 2011, Tyson Food had a sales of $1 billion. In 2012, those were the sales. Write a linear model. That's y equals mx plus b. Given the salary in terms of the year X, then use the model to predict the sales for 2013. Okay, this is where in class we talked about baseline. Okay, so I'm going to baseline. This is 2011 and 2012. So I'm going to let x equals 0 be 2011. So my point, nope, not 2011, sorry. Going to be 2000. So my point for 2011 is not going to be 2011, it's just going to be 11. And 32,266. Notice again, I don't put a comma after my 32 because I don't want this to look like something, comma, something, comma, something. And then my next one's going to be 12, 33,278. Now I have my 2 points. Now I'm going to do exactly what I did a couple problems ago. I'm going to find my slope. So y minus y over x minus x gives me -1012 over -1. So positive 1012. I'm going to pick this point. So y minus y equals m times x minus x. And then I clean. And then I add. And I get so that's my equation. Okay, so I've done that. Then it says use the model to predict the sales for 2013. Okay, well remember X is years, so right there are my years. 2013, but remember you baselined it. So I'm going to plug a 13 in for X. So I'm going to do 1012 times 13 plus 21,134, and you're going to get $34,290, and that's in billion. So $34,290 billion in 2013. Okay. A company purchases a $20,000 machine. In 4 years, the machine will be worth $10,000. Okay, so when we start, it's worth $20,000, and in 4 years, it's depreciated assuming it's a linear depreciation. So I'm going to find my slope. So y minus y over x minus x. Let's see, that's a positive 10,000 over negative 4, which is negative 2,500. So that's how much it's going down per year. That's its slope. Okay, now, if you're on your toes, you're going to realize that if you have a point that has 0 as its x, this is your y-intercept. If you're not on your toes, you're going to do this. You're going to say, okay, I picked this point. So now I'm going to go y minus y equals m, x minus x. Okay, now watch what happens. And then that times 0 is 0. So I'm not going to write it. And then I'm going to add now, do you see that this number right here is that number right there? So you can avoid all of that work when you see a point that has a 0 for its x. If it has a 0 for its x, then that is your y-intercept or your b, the guy that goes right there. So it can save you a little time if you catch it. But let's face it, this is a lot of work. And if you can save some time, I would save some time for sure. Okay, now we're going to graph. Guys, I've got freshmen who could do this. This is the complete review. We need to make sure you're good on your vertical and your horizontal, but this should be just super, super easy to graph. Again, it's got to be in y equals mx plus b, so I'm going to subtract my x. This is super easy, but you don't want to go fast and make an algebra mistake, so slow down. This class is not algebra. This is pre-cal. We are reviewing some of the algebra stuff. So this is all stuff that you should know how to do. This should not be new. So I'm not testing you on this. And if you do make an algebra mistake, it will cost you dearly. So slow down and be careful and watch your details. Okay, the y-intercept is a 2. Slope is a -1, so down 1, right 1. Remember, you always run to the right. And there's your graph. Number 8, I'm subtracting x. And then I'm going to divide by -2. Watch your signs. Again, these details. That's going to give me 1/2 x minus 2. So I'm going to go down to -2, and then I'm going to go up 1, right 2, and draw my line. Number 9, I'm going to be lazy, and instead of moving this guy and this guy, I'm just going to add my y over. So if I add y, I'll have y equals -4x plus 5. Go up to 5, and then down 4, right 1. Remember, if it's a whole number and its slope, it's always over 1. Okay, and the last two, these are Tweedledee and Tweedledum. These are your two special cases, and you need to know the relationship between a slope, the equation, and its graph. Okay, if your slope is 0, your equation is y equals a number, and your graph is horizontal. If your slope is undefined, your equation is x equals a number, and your graph is vertical. You have to know that. You have to be able to go all different ways through this chart. If I give you this, you need to know that the slope is undefined. If I give you this, you need to know that the equation is a y equals. If I give you a y equals, you need to know that the graph looks like this and that the slope is 0. So this is x equals 2. This is x equals 2. I know it's a vertical line. So when I graph this, I'm going to go on the x-axis to 2, and I'm going to draw a vertical line. Now, if I said, hey, what's his slope? Well, his slope is undefined. What's his y-intercept? Well, he never crosses the y-axis, so his y-intercept is also undefined. Number 11, it's a y equals horizontal line. Circle my y-axis to 2, put my dot, draw my line. Now, his slope is 0, and his y-intercept is 2. He crosses the y-axis right there. So this guy has stuff. This guy over here doesn't have stuff. So just make sure you're super, super clear on that. And again, you've done that since the 9th grade. Some of you since the 8th grade. So that should be a piece of cake. Okay, write the equation. All right, we'll check this guy out. His slope is 0. So think about that chart. If your slope is 0, you're a horizontal line, and your y equals. Okay, so if my equation is y equals some number, well, here are two numbers, and I have to choose which one I'm going to use. Guys, if it's y equals the y value of the point. The reason I knew it was y equals is because I know that chart. If my slope is 0, I know I'm y equals. Okay, undefined. Okay, let's go back and look at our chart. If I'm undefined, I know I'm x equals a number. So if I'm undefined, I'm x equals, and again, you have two numbers. If it's x equals the x value of the point. So for A, his graph, let's see, 2, there's my point. If my slope is 0, then that's what the graph looks like, and this is what the equation is. On this one, I'm undefined. I'm going to be vertical, and my equation is x equals 2. Okay, now part C, this one's really nice. If you catch it, be on your toes. I have a very normal, regular slope. I have a point. I could plug it into this, but if I'm smart, I'm going to see that that value is a 0. And if that value is a 0, what does that make him? He's my B. So I'm y equals mx plus b. Okay, parallel and perpendicular. Parallel lines have the same slope. They don't ever touch. Perpendicular lines cross. They cross at a 90-degree angle, and their slopes are opposite signs and reciprocals, which means they're flipped through each other. Write the equational line that passes through that point and is parallel. Okay, so right now I need to find his slope. So I'm going to solve him for y very carefully, because if I screw this part up, the rest of the problem is toast. Watch your signs. Okay. His slope is 2/3. I'm parallel to him, therefore my slope is 2/3. Now I'm going to take my point and my slope and shove it into point slope form. Got some fractions to deal with. Do not touch your calculator. To multiply, put your 2 over 1, whether you physically do it or do it in your mind. Now do top times top, bottom times bottom. Do not do 2 times 3 and 3 times 2. That's not what you do. You're doing 2 times 2 and 3 times 1. So that would be 4 over 3. And then I'm going to subtract 1. You're not touching your calculator. Common denominator would be a 3, so he would be 3 over 3. And so that would be minus 7 over 3. I need you to be able to do that in your head. Okay? Then write the equation of a line that passes through that point and is perpendicular to this equation. So the first thing I need to do is take this equation and go find his slope. So I'm going to subtract my 5x. His slope is a 5/3. Now, I'm perpendicular to him, so my slope is not a 5/3. My slope is a negative 3/5. So I take my negative 3/5 and I take my point. Here I go. Y minus y equals m times x minus x. Y minus y. Put your 4 over 1. Multiply top times top. Bottom times bottom. Add 1. That would be 5 over 5. So negative 3/5 x minus 7/5. And again, if you need to stop and spend some time and love on some fractions, then stop and go spend some time with some fractions. Make sure that you're really good on the common denominator and on multiplying and following your sign rules. Okay, last ones. Write the equational line that passes through that point and is parallel to this guy. Well, if I'm parallel to an x equals, then I'm an x equals, because that's a vertical line, and if I'm parallel to him, I'm a vertical line. If I'm x equals, I'm x equals through the x, through the x value of the point. Done. Completely done. Okay, now I want to be perpendicular. Well, if he's an x equals and I'm perpendicular, that's a vertical line. I'm going to be horizontal. Horizontal is y equals. A vertical and a horizontal line are perpendicular to each other. So again, if he's an x equals, he's a vertical line. So if I'm perpendicular, I want to be a horizontal line. So I'm going to be y equals. If I'm y equals, I am y equals the y value of my point. It is that simple. All right, parallel to y equals. Well, this y equals is a horizontal line. If I'm parallel, then I'm a horizontal line. So I'm y equals, okay, now which number? I'm y equals the y value of your point. You will never be x equals the y value of the point or y equals the x value of the point. They will always go together. Okay, perpendicular. Now he's y equals, which means he's a horizontal line. If I'm perpendicular to him, I'm going to be vertical. So I'm x equals, because that's the equation of all vertical lines. If I'm x equals, I'm x equals the x value of the point. Okay, I hope this helped. Watch it as many times as you need to. Go back and watch certain parts if you need to. You know, I'm not going to do this for the majority of my lessons, but I just thought it was really a good idea to slow down and make sure that we get off to a good start. So if I've put in this extra work, then you need to make sure that you're putting in the work that you need to so that you can be successful. Feel free to come in and ask me any questions, Smart Breakfast or during any of my planning periods. I'm here to help. Thanks.